Hello, we welcome you to another episode of Willing Warriors. I believe this is, let's see, episode number 24.
Where's the time gone?
And we've entitled this one, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. This is a reference to a book that was popular, 20, 30 years ago. And we just sort of, not necessarily proposing you read the book, but it is sort of an apt title to distinguish the differences, more than one difference between men and women. And unfortunately, today's culture is rather confused about that. So, the one specifically that we're going to talk about tonight, one of the difference is the language that we use and the way that women think and process and communicate differently than men generally do. It's not always, a straight line, but generally, I think most people would agree that men communicate different than women. So, just a quick example. Many, many years ago, probably 35 or more.
Ancient history.
Yeah, we were driving to church one day and we saw there was a house that had burned down, and my husband's like, "Oh, that house burned down," very matter of fact, and I was like, "Oh, that's so sad." And he just looks at me like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Well, somebody lost their home and their possessions probably, and they've been displaced." So you had the same situation. The filter and the way that we saw it was just different, and the emphasis was different. But this is good, and we should rejoice in that.
Yeah, perfect. So as we said, our culture today wants to blend the differences, wants to ignore the differences between men and women. We want to rejoice because God has created men differently. He's created women differently. Not only their physique, but also the way they think. So a man often will verbalize to other men, "My wife, she does this and she thinks like this," right? Men, rejoice that your wife doesn't think like a man. Rejoice that she doesn't look like a man. Trust me. So how are men oriented, or what's their orientation? And you'll see what their orientation. This is how they talk. So men are task oriented. God created Adam and all those that followed after him to go, take dominion, rule, expand, work. Right. So men are task oriented. Men, in order to perform this task, also have to be risk takers. So what is it that you have this cousin, a bunch of young men together, and what is it? What do you hear from the crowd? "Hey, y'all, watch this!" As somebody's getting ready to jump off the roof or do something, right? This is a man thing, normally, not a woman thing, right? So men tend to be normally linear thinkers, right? They have this task, and they're going to do this task, they're going to do this task, and they're going to do this task. So their style of communication is something similar, right? They're straightforward, they're binary. Is that a yes? Is that a no? And they're more direct, and sometimes, from a woman's perspective, this looks confrontational, and it can be confrontational. It can be confrontational or combative at times. That, in the right place and the right time, is good. But it's not always good, and that's why God gives us helpmeets. Men are also, as I said, more binary, black or white, and they often use fewer words. So, dear, maybe you want to say a few words on how women communicate.
So women, and I'll speak for myself, I have quite a few, mostly women that are friends, and we understand each other pretty good most of the time. But when we're talking, and we can understand the different nuances, I guess, sometimes. For the most part, unless a man has been married for quite a while and willing to sort of learn that a woman just thinks and acts differently, I guess it's probably more the nurturing part of a woman, that we want to be inclusive. We tend to use more words. We place emphasis on the nuance and how things are presented. Whereas like what you said, men are just more like task oriented and straightforward. So we focus not on just what is said, but sometimes how it's said. And sometimes that can lead to miscommunication or hurt feelings. Conversations, our conversations might be a lot more subtle, not so direct and to the point. Now, I mean, I know some women that are very direct and to the point. I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. I'm saying more across the line that women tend to be that way. So my poor husband, it was many years it took him to learn that I could start a conversation. I might be telling him something about that happened in the day, and then I get distracted, and I've got to go address something, and I might come back a few minutes later. It could be a couple of hours later. It could even be 2 days later, and I'll just jump into the same conversation, the thought that I had, and he's completely lost. I have no idea what you're talking about. I've done that with some friends, and they can, female friends, and they can just, oh yeah, just follow right along. So I think it's a little bit more women. But somewhere along the line, I would get him caught up to speed. He was like, oh, this is what you're talking. So, but usually we want to try to get the whole picture, not just a little road in it. So.
And by the way, so there's a time when the family needs, we need both of those, right? We need both of those skill sets. But for anybody that's been married for any length of time, or you'll have experienced this, right? So this has got to be universal. Husband comes home, he sees his wife distraught, he sees it in her face, and he asks, hey dear, everything okay? And she's at the kitchen, at the stove, chasing the kids around, and she turns and says, yep, everything's okay. What's he think? Women, I know this is going to amaze you, right? What does he think? He thinks everything's okay. And every other woman's going to say, you stupid idiot, can't you see it's not okay? Well, she said everything was okay. So the men are saying, I don't get it. And the women are saying, I don't get him, right? This is, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. This is just one of those things. So men, you have to remember, she's communicating to you, but she's not communicating to you like a man. She's not lying to you. Now why would she say that, right? Well, there could be all manner of reasons. Let me just give a few. So the man, the reason she might be saying that is you walked in, you've caught her at a busy time. She is not prepared to give you a 30-second answer about what is going on in her life. She wants more time than that. She wants your full attention. So you know what you have to do? Have dinner. If it's really disturbing her, have her put aside whatever she's doing. You go to the bedroom, close the door, and you talk, right? And you hear her out. It might not be anything you've done, but you've got to find a time to give her your undivided attention and listen to her. And then you're likely going to hear what's going on in her life. So that's not only, that's a problem. We say, well, is that a man's fault or a woman's fault? Well, it's men are from Mars, women are from Venus. There's other scenarios. You want to describe another one that we faced?
Yeah, so the other one would be the switch up of the husband asking the woman, and so as your husband comes through the door, you want to find out how his day went. And so he comes in and I might say, oh, how did your day go? And you might get a response like, it was good, oh, well, anything interesting happen? And again, you don't need to have the whole day minute by minute, but you want to, something interesting that happened, or, something, whatever, surprising, good, bad, whatever. Just office talk a little bit sometimes, like maybe somebody, had been expecting a baby, or, just some of the details. And you might get the one word answer. Did that issue get resolved with, so and so? And he might say, yep, or no, didn't. And they're truthful. He's not being dishonest with you or untruthful. It's just, we're looking for a little bit more information. Something's missing. He's gone quiet. We're just hearing crickets here. So our industrial world has offered some challenges, and he's been out in this all day, a different part than the wife, and she just wants to be a little bit more a part of his world. And so again, it's the difference between, he just might need some downtime, and like you just mentioned, even with the woman, okay, maybe we can have conversation later on. But the point is, as we are one husband and wife, we want to be on the mission together. And so at some point, though we may not communicate the same way, it's good to be on the same page and bring one another into each other's worlds.
Right. So men, here's your thought, right? Your thought is, she's not communicating like a man. Why is she being nosy? What's her problem, right? She doesn't trust me? No, that's not likely it at all. So you, men, we compartmentalize our world. This is my work world, this is my home world, this is this, and this. That's not how women operate. And as we said, men are created for mission. Men are created for mission. Women are created for men. They want to be a part of what you're doing. You need to let them in. They want to know what's going on in your life, right? If there's a big part of your life and you just close the door on them, guess what? They're jealous. Ooh, jealous of what? Well, they might think there's another woman involved that you're being mums about. Second, they might just simply be jealous. There's a whole big part of your life that they know nothing about. They are not a part of that. Let them in. Let them be a part of that, right? So in a similar manner, let's play it out, right? So a man says very few things and the wife's asking. The other thing that will happen is the flip side of that. The wife will treat her husband like she wants to be treated. What does that look like? So here it is, the beginning of the day, and the wife might say, oh dear, she asks you what's going on in your day, and you answer, and you say, okay, and then she turns and tells you what's going on in her day. She says, oh, I'm going to go to the post office, I got to mail this, I'm going to the grocery store, I got to buy some bananas and bread, I'm going to go buy the cleaners. And Ben, what are you doing in your mind? You're sitting here saying, why is she telling me this? What am I supposed to do with this? Oh, she's letting you in. That's how she wants. She doesn't need a decision. She doesn't need you to optimize. She just wants you to be a part of her life. She's trying to be one with you. You have to reciprocate. So men have to lean in a little bit and tell them more, and women have to acknowledge they might not get as much from their husband as they might get from a lady friend. So this is how we communicate. So maybe we'll talk a little about women and their nurturing, or what we call their sixth sense, and how that can play out.
So yes, I think as nurturers, we, for the most part, and again, that's one of the differences more often than not between men and women. I think women are more in tune with quote unquote people's feelings, or the how somebody's going to perceive a situation or a conversation. So most women, again, I know it's not necessarily straight, but I would say have more of not only, we call it a sixth sense, but they not only focus on what was said, but sometimes how it was said. Maybe it was somebody being snotty, or, we just pick up on some of those things, whether it's right or wrong. And sometimes it's definitely wrong. But because, the sixth sense can be sometimes a good tool, but it's not infallible. It's not without error. We don't know other people's hearts, and we shouldn't impart motive or guilt to another regarding different things. And so we also have to remember that men generally don't have the same sense of nurturing as the mom or the woman does. So they generally don't have the sixth sense either. Although sometimes, we've learned over the years, like I said before, some of my friends might totally get it. And sometimes, it might be lost on my husband to a certain degree. But over the years, he knows me so well that I think he picks up on either my tone of voice or sometimes I'm just downright distraught. So he's been good to pick up on that.
Yeah, so what we're saying, if you get it, I'm not asking my wife to be more masculine. She's not asking me to be more feminine. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to understand we both speak and think differently, and we're trying to be good fits for that. And I need her to help me from time to time to point out, wow, the way you said that really hurt that person's feeling. Now, if that person was a wolf or a heretic, well, so be it, right? And then sometimes I need her to acknowledge that yes, we need to have sharp, clean decision here, and somebody else's feelings mean nothing in this case, or they mean everything in this case. It takes wisdom. So those things are good when they're put together and balanced, right? Back to this part about another foible that we've encountered, since men are created to take dominion, that's how God's made them. They see a problem, they see a challenge, and they are working on solving it, right? So man comes home, he's sitting with his wife, she's telling him the challenges of the day. You know what the man does? He flips right into problem-solving mode, and he says, well, dear, have you thought of doing it this way, this way, this way, this way, this way? And she looks at him, and she's telling him the challenges, but she's already mastered those challenges. She's already resolved it. She's not looking for him to solve the problem. She's just trying to engage. What she wants is him to listen, because she wants to make him a part of the day. So, men, when your wife is talking, you have to discern. You might even have to ask her, are you telling me you just want to involve me? Are you telling me because you want my counsel? Or she might be telling you because she wants you to take a decision. I'd say, oh, why would she want me to take a decision? Well, there might be some decision that has to be taken for somebody's feelings. If you do it this way, someone's feelings are going to get hurt. If you do it this way, somebody's feelings are going to get hurt. And this has got her all bound up because there's no way out for her. So she says, dear, what shall I do? And then if she's asking you that way and you say, would you like me to take this decision? You might see her face say, yes, please. And that just relieves a whole burden off because she hasn't offended anybody. You've taken the decision. You're providing her with cover. So try to discern when she's talking to you, what is she after? Listening, that you can be a part of her life. And if she wants you to listen, ask questions, and engage with her, right? If she wants your counsel, then give it. If she wants you to take a decision, give it. But remember these differences. So maybe you want to talk about the level of words that maybe men and women use on a regular basis.
I remember way back earlier in our marriage, I think you were a little surprised to find not only you married a woman with a sixth sense, but also that, appreciated conversation. And like you just said, we were excited to be part of one another's lives. But it all boils down to, we have to live sacrificially because, everybody can be busy. And even if it's not busy, maybe there's just something that I want to do, or there's a project or just something, personal that we want to go do. And it requires taking time to sit and listen to one another. So we've already discussed, I think, that women generally probably talk more than men. We have to get our 30,000 words in. He would always tease me, you didn't get your 30,000 in yet. And I said, nope, especially with an adult. I've talked a lot to children, but it's nice to have an adult ear to talk to as well. But there is a caution in the book of Proverbs, Proverbs chapter 10, verse 19 says, in the multitude of words, sin is not lacking, but he who restrains his lips is wise. So we do want to be mindful not to become that dripping faucet. Every time our husband walks through the door 1 week, when are you going to cut the grass? Did you cut the grass? Can we make, and just hammer the same thing over and over. We don't want to use our 30,000 words to become dripping faucets or contentious, or to even, hammer our point home, and then also to not overuse our words and therefore show a lack of respect. Like he Kevin mentioned earlier, sometimes he'll make a decision. It hasn't been too often in our marriage, but there are times like, yes, if you could just step up. I don't know what to do. I don't want this to happen. I don't want that to happen. What should I do? And, he'll wisely make a decision. It takes some of the stress off of me. But we do want to be respectful in our words towards our husbands.
So, men, remember where we started. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. So there's a difference there, and we appreciate so many of the differences, and we should rejoice in that. We should even appreciate how we communicate differently. And knowing that as we understand and appreciate those differences, that's how God has made us. So God has made us in his image, both male and female. So God is not only the image of a man, but he's also the image when the man and the woman are together. That's a more complete picture of God. God has spoken of his love to us. What's it say? It says, can a nursing mother forget the baby at her breast? The answer is no. Well, God says, neither can I forget you. God is a nurse. That's his picture of how much he loves us. He uses a mother. So here we have a man and a woman, how they communicate. It's the best picture of God. So, man, a couple things. So take the lead in communication. Let her into your world. Set apart some time. Do it each and every day. Just to sit and talk, listen, give her your full attention. Try to decide if you're just being let in. Let her in. Don't jump into problem-solving mode. You remember the example when she says nothing is wrong. Her face says something is wrong. Pull her aside. Figure out what it is. There's times when you need to be direct. There are times when you don't need to be so direct. Sometimes being so direct with her will come off as bullying her, and that's definitely not what you want to do. Scripture says, we covered this in another video, she's the weaker vessel. Treat her not like another man. Treat her like the weaker vessel. Be gracious to her in her conversation. Maybe you have to say a few more words to try to fully understand the nuances. One of the things I will encourage you to do is after you've had a chance to talk about the day, about your life, end in prayer. Take it all before the Lord and lead her in this way. Rejoice. Men and women, rejoice in these differences. Rejoice, men, that she looks like a woman, and rejoice that she thinks like a woman. Her style of communication is different. Revel in these differences. This is the image of God. We thank you for joining us for this video, for this episode, and hope you'll subscribe to the channel. We have many more episodes that we have in our mind, and Lord willing, we'll get them produced about one a week. Until next time, God bless you.